everyone. Welcome to Awkward Conversations. I'm really excited to be here joining you for how to talk to your kids better. My name is Jodie Sweetin. You might know me from Full House and Fuller House and a whole host of other things. But today we are here talking about how to build relationships and bonds with your kids. We're talking about awkward conversations. We're talking about drug prevention and having conversations with our kids that may be a little bit difficult, uncomfortable, and how to best do them. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to welcome our guests too. We have Greg Grunberg, who is here today, an actor who you might recognize from Heroes and many other things. Greg, thank you so much for being here.
Are you kidding me? Thank you.
Also a dad to 3 boys. And we have Heidi Dutson, who is a certified prevention specialist here with us today to give us some expert advice. And of course, Amy McCarthy, who is with us in all of our episodes, our LCSW that works at Boston Children's Hospital, who is giving us some fabulous advice as well. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation today. This first episode is really talking about building family relationships and bonds because, at the base of all of our awkward conversations, all of our talk about, it really all comes down to having those relationships and bonds and communication with families and with parents. I have 2 daughters, 14 and almost 12, and I have just tried to keep that door of communication open as much as possible. I would love to hear Greg from you. I mean, I know your kids are a little bit older. Like, how has that process been for you? Did you find yourself struggling with it or?
It's interesting because, okay, you're 12 and 14. You're in big trouble, Jodie.
Oh, yep. Already in it.
Yeah, this is not going to be easy. I've always said, so my wife and I, we're teams, right? So, and we've got boys. So there are boy issues that they might not be comfortable talking to their mom about, where they are more comfortable talking about me. And we've always talked about at the beginning, and by the way, they're such sponges. So at the beginning, we were like, okay, we have to, some people keep total secrets and it's like, can I talk to you in the other room for a second? And they go in the other room and they have that conversation. We're not like that. And so as you know, we try to do that. We also, our oldest has special needs, right? So Jake has epilepsy. And so there are moments when all of that goes out the window and you are rushing to take care of a child who has a seizure or whatever. There's no secrets, none of that. But this is all just to get back to, I think it's all about trust, because you want to have this sort of, not buddy thing, but you want to be best friends. You want to have that same sort of trust where they'll talk to you about anything at any time and feel comfortable about it. But you don't want to give out too much information. It's just so interesting, right? It's when they grow up. But now, like, just to give you an example, I have a thing with our boys. Sam just graduated high school. He's about to go into college. One of my boys just graduated from college. But throughout all of their years of going to parties and doing all this stuff where they would leave here, it's not play date time. It's, I don't know where they're going. I know they're going to a house and I know where they are. But we have this thing where they could text me. We share, by the way, sharing location and all that, but text me and just say, I'm ready. That's it. That's all they have to say. I'm not going to question did they drink? Are they in a situation they shouldn't be in? What it is. If I get I'm ready, that means I don't want to say anything. I don't want to pretend like I don't want to tell my friends that my dad's coming to pick me up, whatever. I get in the car, I go, I wait outside, say I'm here. He comes, and it's that kind of I think just trust. And then they're very open with stuff, and I don't judge. They know right from wrong, and you have to trust yourself as a parent that you've done a good job. I mean, Amy, do you agree with that? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that trust is absolutely essential as a foundational building block, no doubt. And I love the idea of kind of creating a space where there's safety, like no questions asked, at least in the moment, especially because sometimes in the moment when somebody is having a hard time, a young person especially, it's not the right time to kind of jump right into it. But, being able to create space for like, let's go back maybe and like, is there more that we want to talk about that? Or, can we speak a little bit more about that? And I think when it comes to substance use and when we know if young people are using substances, then there might be a separate set of kind of guidelines that we introduce because the trust maybe has been broken at that point. But I absolutely think that we don't want to, we want to, as far as we're aware as parents and caregivers, when the trust hasn't been broken, then I think it's important to honor that.
I have a question for you. Let's see if I did the right thing, because the most awkward moment I've ever had, thank God, with substance stuff was where my son confided in me that a friend of his is doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing, right? So my son says, "Hey, my buddy he's smoking and he's drinking." And because I said, "Why aren't you hanging out with him? How come I haven't seen you hanging out with him lately?" And he goes, "Well, he's just into different things than me." And we just start having a conversation. And then I said, "Well, tell me about that." And he's like, "Yeah, he's just doing, he's smoking a lot of weed and he's drinking like crazy." And I was like, "What?" And this is when they were really young. And I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." Meanwhile, cut to me standing at, because they were on the same sports team, and I'm sitting there next to this kid's dad. And the dad has absolutely no idea. The awkwardness was, I would want someone to tell me, Jodie, if somebody knew something about your girls, wouldn't you want to know?
Oh, absolutely. And I've had that happen before. And I also have been the parent that's gone and said, hey, like I try and really have a good relationship also, not only with my kids, but with their friends and their friends' parents, so that I can call and say, hey, I saw this happen, or hey, this, this is going on. I just wanted to let you know. And I don't abuse that privilege. I don't interject myself into my kids' life and social life all the time. But I definitely, like to have that relationship and know. And I do want to know. I remember, my mom saying the same thing.
But when you say something to that parent, there's no question now that they know your daughter is the one that said something. I mean, it's you're breaking the trust between their relationship, their friendship.
Well, and that's the thing is I definitely, it depends on the situation. It depends on kind of how it unfolds and what's going on. A lot of times you have to have that trust and be able to keep that to yourself and let your kids sort of guide them through and figure it out. So
clearly Jodie is a better parent than I am. No, I'm kidding.
No. I'm holding on by a thread.
No. I'm joking. But here's where I look and I go, did I do the right thing? Because I'm 1,000% in with what you said, Jodie. But Heidi, did I do the right thing I kind of teased it?
Yeah, I love this because, this whole idea around awkward conversations, I think really is pointing us to some crucial conversations. So, Greg, to what you're saying, like that tough situation that you're in where trust is on the table, right? And we know that trust is essential to keep a good bond with our kids. But we also know that some secrets just aren't worth keeping, right? This could be true with substance use. Like there could potentially be a life on the line, right? Or potential addiction issues ensue from this. And we also talk about this like with suicide. If somebody's showing potential signs of suicide, like that's just a secret that we don't want to keep. So part of a crucial conversations we can have with our kid ahead of time is to say, hey, let's talk about you and your friendships. And just so you know, like I'm here to keep your trust, but let's talk about some secrets. You might be put in a situation as a friend that doesn't keep you safe or your friends safe. And I just want to let you know as a parent that I value you enough and your friend enough that I'm here to not keep some of those secrets.
I was going to say, I always tried to teach my kids if somebody's in danger, if there is a danger to someone's well-being, those are the secrets that you need to tell. But like, I don't need to hear all the friendship secrets.
I'll say the exact same thing, and I'll cite an example, even if I have to like embellish and say, like, when I was your age, there was this kid, and I'll cite an example of something that they go, oh, so that they don't feel like they're doing that. They're not the first one that's done this, and oh, dad's been through this before, or mom's been through this. I mean, how we survived, I'm a lot older than you, Jodie, but how we survived as kids, I have no idea. I mean, the stuff that we got away with that I would never let my kids do.
Well, and here's the thing though, is they're probably still doing all that stuff, but now they post it on social media and we know about it. So that my kids always get caught because they post and I'm like, you guys, I mean, I appreciate it that you're not, great at pulling this off yet. But, I follow my kids' social media. I follow my kids' friends' social media. Not in like a weird, creepy way. But I definitely, and I think as a mom, sometimes it's a little different. You can follow like, your kids' friends and things like that on the internet. But I follow them just to see what's going on. You know, because sometimes I know my kids will block me in a story, but I'll see it through one of their friends.
Right. I have to say, using social media to our advantage as parents is a really great thing. And this is what I mean. I came across this thing where a guy says, I was almost a school shooter. And he's a grown man now. And it's a TED Talk that he did. I don't know if you've seen it. If you have, oh, it is so powerful. And the most powerful part about it, we just went on a little vacation, oldie-timey vacation. We drove up to Mammoth and we were driving back, which obviously in the car is one of the best places that you can ever have great conversations with your kids. So we're driving back and I mentioned it. My son was like, oh yeah. And of course, two of them were like, I'm listening to Drake's new album. I'd be big. And I was like, okay, let's just put this on. That social media, if you're watching it together, if you find something and you can watch it together, that could do the talking for you instead of having to have that awkward conversation.
There's great ways to have lead-in conversations. I always talk about like having the mom face where I try to stay sort of nonplussed at any information coming my way, where it's just, I think I actually saw an interview with Michelle Obama where she talked about that. And she was like, sometimes they just start talking and you have to just nod and pretend like you're not freaking out inside about whatever they're telling you and allow them to sort of do that. But I love that you talked about that. And I'm sure Heidi and Amy will agree on this, is that, there's never too early an age to start having these conversations about how to have a conversation with your peers, how to respect people, how to, all of those sorts of things. And really at the end of the day, kids are sponges. They absorb this stuff. I know my kids get sick of me because they'll be telling me about a story at school that some kid was, they were making fun of him or this happened. And I'm like, no. Well, what about his feelings? Well, and they're like, Mom, it's just, I'm like, no. And they know now that stuff is like so ingrained in them that when they see that behavior, they go, wait a minute, what about that other person? What's going, because it's, the constant mom talk, and they absorb that stuff and they absorb how we deal with other people. And it's one of our greatest, assets is having them just see us be the things that we talk about, right? And having us have open lines of communication and dialogue, not just with our kids, but with our friends, with our parents, with our spouses or significant others.
By the way, also I have a podcast called Talk About It. That's my podcast, and it's for the rare disease and epilepsy community because there's such stigma attached to a lot of these causes, but it bleeds into a lot of other stuff, and it's like the one thing that I try to instill, and we've always instilled, is just when you have a child with special needs, there's a built-in empathy and compassion that you have, right? My other boys will see somebody in a wheelchair or see someone that obviously has Downs or something that presents itself visually, and they'll go up and say, "Hey, how'd you get in the chair?" Or "What's up with the crutches?" Or you know what I mean? Like, people want to have you engage in conversation. They don't want to be looked at and stared at. So that's been a lesson. It's been a great thing, and through Talk About It and this new series I have, The Caregiver, it's just like I'm learning from so many other parents. Like, what you guys are doing here is just, it's awesome. I'm already gonna say I need to come back.
Yes, would love it. I'll have to have you on I have a podcast, never thought I'd say this. It's a comedy parenting podcast. It's a lot of advice on what not to do, but it's also just a very honest discussion about parenting fails, how to do it best, all of that kind of stuff. And, one of the things that we always talk about is coming back to how do we connect as a family? How do we bring things together? In this age of soccer practice and musical theater practice and this one's going here and I've got work and this, what are some of those rituals that we set for ourselves? And, in our house, my girls go back and forth between my house and their dad's, but we make sure that on the weekends we do at least 2 to 3 home cooked meals together. If a friend wants to come over, that's fine. But I try and make sure that we at least eat 2 to 3 meals together as a family. We talk to them that we'll try and do, game night or these little, and actually they've found that eating dinner together, kids are 33% less likely to drink or have substance abuse problems if they have a consistent family dinner with people that they love. And it could just be the kid and one parent, just that moment of connection somehow that brings them together. And that's been something for me. I don't know, Greg, do you have any like family traditions in your house that you do that really bring everyone together?
Well, I mean, it's competitions. Like I'll create a competition. We'll do a smoke off. I have a smoker and a barbecue. And by the way, the earlier you get your kids involved in cooking, the more independence. You're building independence. Like kids need to know how to cook. They need to know how to clean their room. They need to know that if they walk by, if they blew their nose last night and there's a tissue next to the bed, pick
Put
it
it in the
up. Like don't
trash.
just hello, and so and the more you yell at them, the more and my wife and I fight about this all the time. Like my Elizabeth will be like, "Don't come on, just pick that up." Oh, okay. And then she picks it up. And I'm like, just leave it. If there's a mountain of tissue blocking their door, that's on them. That's their
I
fault.
know. I'm the same. I get it. I'm the same way. My fiance's like, baby, you
Yeah.
need to let that. And I'm like, but I just want it done. But do you guys, I love this. I love the barbecuing idea. That's such an awesome, fun way to like connect. And yes, you're right. Cooking together, like learning how to make a meal. Food is such a joining together activity when you quote unquote break bread with people, with your family, with your friends. I also find it a great way to connect with their friends. If I say, hey, we're cooking at home tonight. Hey, you each want to invite a friend over for dinner? Those sorts of things really, really connect.
So by the way, every Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about holidays?
Yeah, we'll do. We don't do. We're Jewish. We don't do like the Friday night dinners, but we do. We love having family over for Thanksgiving, for Super Bowl, for anything. We'll have family over. But we invite friends. It's the most important thing you can do. Just have a friend over, mix it up, show that you're welcoming other people into the house. But the competitions, like we'll even challenge another family, and they'll bring over some dessert, and we'll do a little competition thing. We did a crawl on our street where it's like we started at our house, went to another person's house. They had a little thing, it was sort of built a meal that way.
My neighborhood that I grew up in used to do that same thing. They had a traveling holiday party and stuff. And I remember like how much it connected me to the neighborhood and to not only my parents, but other parents, other trusted, adults. And that's, I think, one thing too, that I always tell my kids talking about, relationships and communication. I have several really amazing, wonderful best friends that are in my girls' lives, that are aunties, and I trust them, and I know that they've been around since my kids were born. They saw them in the hospital, and I know, and I tell my kids, there are some things that that you might not want to share with me as you get older. I understand that, but you have 4, 5, 6 other really, and they think they're cool because they're like cool tattooed, like they're like cool. I'm not cool. I'm like, you have these people in your life that you can talk to, and thank God that they have.
Saving lives means staying informed. Knowing the dangers of using counterfeit prescription pills can help those you care about and keep our community safe. As a parent, educator, neighbor, or friend, we all play a role in building safe and healthy futures for ourselves and our loved ones. Do your part. Take the first step today. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com to access education, prevention, and treatment resources. Counterfeit prescription pills laced with fentanyl are deadly. Be their protector. Be informed. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com.
There is no perfect parenting, and one of the things that we always reiterate is there is no perfect parenting. Just be present. And sometimes that looks like just sitting in the room while they're talking to their friend, or just be there, just so that they know. And as teenagers, they kind of go away and do whatever. But, one of the things that we always really talk about on the podcast is that don't beat yourself up as a parent. And I think that really ties into, all of the awkward conversations that we're going to have. And I talked about this last season with a couple other guests about, you're not going to always get these conversations perfect. And there is no perfect. But as long as you're trying and opening up that avenue, you got a head start. You know what I mean? You're doing all right. Yes, it's probably going to be weird, and you're probably going to say something and go, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said this. That's okay. You've got time. Take a breath and just open that line of communication with your kids.
I have a piece of art in our house that I made for my wife. It's a line from a movie that I love, and it just represents parenting. It represents our marriage, our family, but it represents parenting. It's you look at it and it's just a bunch of letters, but then when you go, oh, those are words. They make up words. It's hold on tight. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, and that's from Willy Wonka. And that's life, right? That's being a parent. And if you're present, you're at least as prepared as you possibly can be to be nimble and handle the situations that come your way. You can't beat yourself up, It's like, just move forward, keep moving forward. Just be there for your kids.
But it's true. And we're all just kind of out there doing our best, as are our kids. Our kids are out there just trying to figure out the world. And so if we can be their guide, their partner, their sounding board, they have a much better chance at figuring some of these things out for themselves, because they're going to have to go through these experiences. They're going to have to go through hard things. And they're going to have to learn how to, stand up for themselves, how to say no, how to fight these battles on their own. But those tools come from having that open line of relationship and reflecting what they see their parents doing and who their parents are. All of those things play a huge role in how your children are going to grow up and develop. Greg, thank you so much for joining us today for our awkward conversations. It sounds like you are doing a great job, and you have a really, really wonderful connection with your kids. So nice work, my friend. You're killing it.
Absolutely my pleasure. I've known about this and I've wanted to be on the show. So I really appreciate you having me on. And again, I mean it. Anytime you want, I would love to come back. And I want to be on your podcast.
Yes.
You mentioned it. I want to do it. But thank you so much for having me. Heidi and Amy, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, God. Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Coming up on the next part of this episode.
When we take those babies home from the hospital, there's no user manual. We can get some general instruction about how to keep them alive, but they're all such unique individuals.
What happens when we don't meet the expectation? What happens when we do? And to think about that as shaping your child's behavior.
As a parent, it's not easy to say no to your kids. You just want them to, yes, have the best time ever and it's all great. But I went back and I thanked my mom for all the times that she put those boundaries in.
It was life-changing for me as a parent when I found out that there's actually a whole field of science regarding prevention and strategies that we can use with our children at home and in our community that can actually increase the likelihood that they're going to make good decisions.
Make sure to check out getsmartabouttrugs.com. Parents, caregivers, you can find so many resources of great information there about how to talk to your kids and make these conversations a little less awkward. A huge thank you to the Elks DAP, which is the largest all-volunteer nationwide drug awareness program, and also a huge thanks to the DEA for their outreach program and for making this possible.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Awkward Conversation series are solely those of the individuals, speakers, commentators, experts, and/or hosts involved, and do not necessarily reflect nor represent those of the production, associates, or broadcaster, or any of its employees. Production is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in the series available for viewing. The primary purpose of this series is to educate and inform. This series does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. This series is available for private, non-commercial use only. The production, broadcaster, or its channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.